parties have expressed dissatisfaction over President Cyril Ramaphosa's response to the Standing Committee on Public Accounts over his knowledge of alleged misuse of public funds for political party purposes. The EFF has said that they will explore other avenues regarding the matter after the committee resolved on a 6-4 majority that the president should not appear before them. Here to talk to us about this, I'm joined by MPs and members of SCOPA, Veronica Mente of the EFF, as well as Alf Lees for the Democratic Alliance. Good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time and joining us tonight here on In Focus. Veronica, let me begin with you. Do you believe the ANC used its majority to block the president from coming to account?
Good evening to you, Tabo. It's absolutely true that the ANC had used its majority in order to defend its head of the executive from accountability. And this, by the way, is not new, and it doesn't shock us because we do understand the meaning of our government and its executive in nowadays. It's only there as a committee and nothing else that seeks to just be the securities and look and make sure that the affairs of the imperialist system are conquering us more than it has done before. And this time around, it's doing it through the control of the politics and the political environment of South Africa, which in this case, the ANC is majority in parliament, and it dictates what becomes the decisions of parliament.
Yeah. The ANC insisting tonight that there's nothing untoward about this. It's not a break with any tradition. Instead, matters are canvassed in committees, they're debated. Sometimes they reach consensus, but if there is no consensus reached, it is, of course, then subjected to a vote, and therefore they were not really muscling the committee in a way into using their majority in that committee. Do you think that's how it happened? I mean, was this matter exhausted enough in the debate?
If you had listened to the committee and its deliberations, on the first day we addressed the matter of the letter from member Dars. On that particular day, the first person from the ANC came with a longest speech which you could swear he was reading from something written. And that longest speech already was almost saying there is nothing untoward on what the president said. And they kept on insisting that we did not hear the full context of what he was meaning in that particular recording, forgetting that that particular recording is even mentioning the names of some of the NEC members, which then become people who are implicated in this same report or recording. And those people can come and testify to the committee. And the other thing that can happen, that full recording can then be summoned to come and give the full context to the committee and make sure that we understand then the veracity of this particular recording and what did it actually mean and what does the president know, which now he says he doesn't know.
Yeah. Alf, the NC saying, well, SCOPA has already benefited from that already given response that the president has given to the committee to clarify the matters. And the matters being clarified here is that if you read the context of that message was coming from an NEC closed meeting where the president was talking, from what we're hearing, relying on public information in that comment that he made to say, well, there's already public information that is out there around the use of public funds for party political campaigning within the ANC. But he's saying, I'm willing that my campaign be scrutinized even with that public information that is already out there in order for me to protect the image of the ANC as the one who's taking leadership in uniting this party. Is that an adequate response for you? Does it clear matters at all? Does SCOPA benefit from that kind of an answer?
Not at all.
Sorry, Veronica. That's for Alf. Alf, go for it.
Sorry, Honourable Mente. Thabo, yeah, it really doesn't. As I pointed out yesterday when I asked for President Ramaphosa to be called, it's an obfuscation. When you look at the transcript, the very first words of the second paragraph actually say, and this is President Ramaphosa speaking, and he hasn't denied that it was him speaking. He says, and I quote, "Each one of us knows that quite a bit of money that was used in campaigns and busing people, etc., etc." So what he appears to be saying there is that he knows about this use of state funds for party political purposes and apparently for the ANC. For him now to come along and say, well, actually, it's something that's in the public domain and it's not something that he knows about, it's what he's heard about at the Zondo Commission and so on, is a complete obfuscation and a diversion away from the issue. And if I can just go back to the first meeting that Veronica actually talked about, and she's quite right. At that meeting, there was general consensus, actually, that we in the opposition parties said, well, let's get a written response, have a look at the written response, and if we're not happy with it, we'll then call for the president to appear before the committee. There was general consensus on that. And my impression of the meeting yesterday was that whilst the ANC members were not prepared to call President Ramaphosa, they also appeared not to be entirely happy with his response. So there was, in our view, a backtracking from the first meeting where there was consensus that if we weren't happy with the response, President Ramaphosa would be invited to come to appear before the committee. We agreed that the summonsing wouldn't be necessary if he came. But, of course, the summonsing always remains as a possibility if President Ramaphosa doesn't cooperate. So my answer to your question is no. The response from President Ramaphosa does not deal with the substantive matter of what he said, because now it's confirmed he actually did say it. And it kind of tried to divert attention to the SSA, and whilst I and the DA is very happy for the SCOPA to look into the SSA, which has been a really vexed question for years, particularly under President Zuma, when it appears to have been used, as has been divulged at the Zondo Commission, for all sorts of malfeasance. So, yes, we'll look at that, no problem. But that was not the subject of the discussion at yesterday evening's meeting, and certainly in terms of the written response from President Ramaphosa, he didn't deal with the substantive matter of what he had said about state funds being used for political party purposes. And so it is indeed a really sad situation that the ANC in SCOPA changed from a position where, as certainly my understanding, and Veronica can confirm or not, but my understanding was that if we were not happy with the response, we would then invite President Ramaphosa to come to appear.
All right.
That position was completely reversed last night.
Let's take a break. We'll continue with the two MPs, members of SCOPA, Veronica Mente, as well as Alf Lees tonight here on In Focus. Get to the bottom of what avenues are going to be pursued now to get at least clarity on this particular matter from the President's statements. Back live with us tonight on In Focus, still in conversation with MPs and members of SCOPA, Veronica Mente, as well as Alf Lees, following a response by President Cyril Ramaphosa to SCOPA that he does not have, he says, direct knowledge of specific information on alleged misuse of public funds. So, Veronica, initially, I mean, when we listened to that clip, as Alf has already pointed out, the president is saying that each one of us knows. Now, he is saying that each one of us knows is actually referring to information that is already in the public domain and nothing specifically that is new that he's got a knowledge of. How do you get around that particular loophole that the president seemingly has created for himself?
You know, one thing that is very interesting with the response of the president is that even the legal opinion of Parliament states categorically clear that the president does not deny the fact that he knows that public funds were used for party political purposes. And the second thing he says in that recording is that he is willing to fall on his sword than to be what I would term a sellout. And then he continues to mention one of the NEC members, who is Tony Yengeni, in that clip. So he forgets that there is information which came out of his direct mouth. And that information is the information now that he must cough out and make the public aware of what he knows. So for everything else he says and diverting the committee into looking into the reports that are existing, which all of us knows, and some of those reports have been taken to different portfolio committees of Parliament, and they are under investigations in the different spheres of government and also in different arms of state. So we cannot then take what he says and say, out of every question, I do not have the information. The information I know is the information that is in the public domain. He also does not say, I heard, all of us, we heard about what? All of us, we have been told of this. He says, we all know of the public funds that have been used for party political purposes. And that's exactly what he must come and explain to SCOPA. But it's so unfortunate, Thabo, that the rules of Parliament are in such a manner that everything else that happens there is at the behest of majority. So it's the rules that we must deal with. The rules of Parliament are dictating that whatever else which comes with the opposition, if ever it does not suit the agenda of the ANC, it then will never be a considered decision, and it will never be a decision that can be actioned anyway, even if it's a very progressive action and if it's a progressive decision. Let's take, for instance, in this case, I even mentioned in the previous meeting we had that stop coming with the defense mechanism. Treat President Ramaphosa as a whistleblower. Let him come and whistleblow, and nothing will happen to him. But in their realization that they are going to be all in trouble, because each one of them, just like Comrade Batabile said some time ago, each one of them, they have skeletons in the closet. They realize that if they allow that situation, then hell is going to break loose. Just like Omar Zambano was saying earlier on, in the previous meeting, we ended up, all of us agreeing that, okay, let's use the method that we always use in SCOPA, that of which we write to the person, for the person to explain, and then we take that response and get the person to come and clarify further and elaborate on areas where we are not clear. In this instance, the ANC, their first thing they said was that, no, there's no need. We are not going to jika amake abezizonga. What does that mean when the person does not deny that he knows, and there are people who know that the money has been filtered from government? Now we get sent to information that exists. And one of the areas that I emphasize a lot, even the legal opinion is emphasizing on, is that, no, the diversion of this thing must now go to SSA. SSA is one out of many companies of government and out of many departments of government that we deal with on a daily basis because their financial conduct is questionable.
Alf, what we are also hearing, particularly also in that legal opinion, is of course the emphasis on waiting for the third part of the Zondo Commission report. Of course, that is not preventing getting the president to come and appear. But Alf, as the committee, do you think you'll derive any benefit from that waiting for the third part of the report?
No, well, absolutely not. I mean, the report is going to be a report on public hearings, which have happened over a number of years, the last 3 years, I think it is. So there's nothing new coming out of the report. What will come out of the report will be recommendations, and those will be dealt with by various committees, as Veronica is saying. It's really an obfuscation, a diversion, and what the legal opinion is doing is simply taking what President Ramaphosa has put down in his letter and building on it. They don't have a position. They can't have a position. They give advice. And so it's really not, it's helpful in the sense that it gives us some direction. If we were to decide to have a look at the SSA and our normal business of the committee, it gives us some assistance. But that's not what we're talking about. And so it's really of no real assistance to hold President Ramaphosa accountable or for him to be able to account for his remarks. And this is a cloud which is now hanging over his head and is actually doing damage to us as a country. To have our president with this kind of cloud hanging over his head is absolutely bad at any time. But at this particular point, where the president is supposedly, and he certainly has stated it often enough, trying to deal with stamping out corruption, then surely he should be taking this opportunity and coming publicly to the committee and saying, this is what I know, and these are the people I know involved, and I am taking this action, I am reporting them for criminal investigation or whatever. But what is happening is that he's escaping from that public disclosure, if there is something to disclose, by obfuscating and trying to get the committee to go elsewhere. And of course the committee, as the majority on the committee, seem to have been very obedient about following that line. And interestingly, Thabo, you know, we as a committee, we generally work very well together, and I think Veronica will agree to that. But very seldom do we see 6 ANC members at the committee, at meetings. Very, very seldom. So this, suddenly last night, we had a full complement. And interestingly, the chair of the committee didn't publicly vote either, that I'm aware of anyway. We all were asked to say yes or no, but I don't remember the chair saying yes or no. But anyway, that's a bit of a diversion of my own. So yeah, it's not a happy situation, no, Thabo, and yeah, we're going to have to find ways of dealing with it, not just from a partisan point of view, but from a country point of view, and clearing the air. We need a president who is not being perceived to be involved or supporting or hiding corruption.
Certainly not the end of this. I appreciate you both. Thank you very much for coming on, MPs and members of SCOPA there, Veronica Mente and Alf Lees. It's not the end of this particular matter. It's one that we will certainly have to keep on looking at, and what the outcomes thereof will be, especially as we await the release of that third part of the report of the Commission of Inquiry into State Capture.